for charitable causes, my mission is to spread love in my community by sharing our passion for the arts. Dancing, fashion modeling, and promoting Asian culture at our annual production of Fashion Fantasia, co-chaired by producer Monique Zhang and California State Treasurer Fiona Vaughn, we've had fundraised for a multitude of charitable organizations. So far, we've supported the San Francisco Pomeroy Recreation and Rehabilitation Center, the Chinese Hospital of San Francisco, as well as Self-Help for the Elderly, which we raised over $600,000 for. As a Sage Global, I will partner with Kylie for charitable causes to continue uplifting my community, while also finding core members to be part of future endeavors. My motto is, to find your purpose, follow your passion. So together, let's make our mark by sharing our passions with the world. In times of darkness, love is the cure.
Please join me in welcoming Ms. Kylie Chang.
Thank you for joining me, Kylie.
Thank you for having me, Francis.
Now, obviously, dancing is something that is very integral into your life and also helped you pretty probably get the title of Miss Asian Global. Now, you started dancing at a very early age here.
So yeah, I did first start dancing when I was around 5 years old. Originally, it was my parents who put me into dance lessons. This is actually a picture of one of my very first dance lessons. It was at a Chinese dance studio. I'm the one on the right, clearly with no coordination, a little bit. I didn't know what I was doing. But at that time, I really fell in love with dance, and it wasn't until I had joined my competitive dance team in around 5th grade that I really fell in love with dance and wanted to continue on doing it. This is actually a picture of one of my very first solos that I did when I was in 7th grade. I remember when I was practicing this routine throughout that year, my biggest fear was that on the day that I had to perform, I would forget my entire routine and I would make myself look like an idiot. And thankfully that didn't happen. And when I actually went on stage, it went really well. And I realized that it was all just really in my head. And I ended up doing really well. I placed 5th place overall. And after realizing that, that's what really started my transition into gaining more self-confidence.
So now you're 5 here?
I was 5 here, and I think I was around 13 or 14 over here.
I think that's the only time that I was actually taller than her. So you, at this point, were already like getting into the part where, was there a difference when you were going from a group performance into your first solo? Was there any type of pressure or expectation that you're experiencing at the early age of like 13 here?
I think when I was 13, I didn't really experience as much of that pressure, but I think moving on into when I joined my high school dance team in my freshman year of high school, that's when the pressure really came on. And I think on the next slide, we actually have a couple of pictures of when I was on my high school dance team. These are actually pictures from my senior year. This was one of our jazz dances, and that was when I performed at one of our football games. And I think there was definitely a big transition within my dance career. I think when I was first performing as a soloist at 7th grade, I didn't really give myself much pressure at winning. But I think once I started joining my high school dance team, a lot of that pressure started coming on, and I gave myself the expectation to win. And actually, in my sophomore year of high school is when I got my first leadership role as an officer. And that's when the expectations started really coming on. I felt like I really had to win, and I felt like I had that pressure behind me, and that's what really affected me a lot. And yeah.
So as a child, you were performing and you had that kind of pressure on your own. But then when you got here, now you're performing and representing an entire school, not just yourself anymore, right? And it wasn't just the fact that you're representing a whole different entity, but you're also now put in a leadership position. What was that like from both the development point of view, but also from politics point of view?
Yeah, so when that was actually one of my very first leadership positions was on my high school dance team, and I had the opportunity to become a co-captain in my junior year. And I think that was definitely a very integral experience in my development of my leadership style. I had to actually work with someone who was a senior co-captain at that time. I was a junior. And I remember really struggling with that experience because I felt like everyone else around me was much more experienced as a leader and also a dancer. And I didn't really have any of that guidance or anyone to look up to. And so I felt like when I was trying to lead the team, I would often sort of be shut down or I would be ignored. People wouldn't really listen to me. And I didn't feel like my voice was really heard, and that's something that I really struggled with. But I think through that experience and over time, one thing that is something that I really realized is that you don't necessarily have to be the loudest in the room or someone who tells other people what to do to be a good leader. I think there are different types of leaders. Everyone has their own leadership style. And through that experience, I really learned about my own leadership style, which is something that I like to call quiet leadership, which is essentially the idea that you don't necessarily have to tell other people what to do, but instead you can show them how to do it by being a good role model and setting a good example for others.
So what do you think is one of the more important things to develop in leaders? Because you're not just leading them, but you're also trying to cultivate them to become future leaders. When you graduate from high school, obviously you got to hand it off to them, right? So what was one of the most important things that you learned that's integral into building leadership in the future?
Yeah, so I felt like when I was in my freshman year, before I had gotten that leadership position, I didn't really have anyone to look up to. Unfortunately, no one really reached out to me. I didn't feel like many people were approachable, and I felt like I kind of struggled with, reaching out to people and getting help. And I think once I had gotten that role for myself in my junior year and my senior year, when I continued to be a co-captain, I really wanted to develop that sense of community on the team and to make it a more inclusive environment. And so what I really wanted to do was inspire, future younger generations of dancers to also aspire to become leaders one day. And so what I did was, I tried to make myself more approachable to all the other team members, try to be more friendly with them, and to just really encourage them and show them that they are capable, because I came from where they were, and yet I still made it to becoming a co-captain. And so I really wanted to just inspire them and show them that they can do the same thing one day.
Okay. Now, I met you actually during high school, like when you're in your junior year going to your senior year, right? And you're already developing your leadership there. And of course, once we finished your college applications, went straight into pageantry. So did your background in dancing and high school leadership help you in any of your pageant journey going? Before you joined our pageant, you were already in another pageant, right?
Yes, I was part of the Missing Tell organization.
But that was virtual, right?
Yes, it was during the pandemic, definitely a very different pageant experience. So Miss Asian Global was actually my very first on-stage pageant.
So we have some photos here. This is you in our pageant.
Yes.
Now tell us, what was the difference between transitioning from a performer, a dance captain, leader, now all of a sudden having a bunch of sponsors behind you?
So yeah, I would definitely say there were some easier parts, given that I had that dance experience, but there were also some parts that were entirely, completely new to me. For example, because I was a dancer, I had already been trained to have stage presence, to have good facial expressions, and to be able to engage well with an audience. But there were other parts that I had never done before, such as doing impromptu Q&A on stage, or even doing an interview in front of a panel of 7 judges. And one of my biggest fears is actually public speaking, and so I really had to go through that, through the pageant, and thanks to all your help, you really helped me get over that fear a little bit. So, yeah.
So what are we looking at here? We're looking at, what is this?
That is my ethnic costume. It was actually one of my previous dance costumes, where I did a Chinese dance representing the white peacock. It's an ethnic Chinese dance, and I turned it into my costume, and I got a nice headpiece made that made it look like a peacock. And the middle one is the one for my evening gown segment. And this one is one of my Chinese folkloric dance solos that I did. This was for the talent portion, and I was portraying the first Asian American actress, Anna May Wong, hence the bangs that you can kind of see. I don't know if you guys can see from that far away, but yeah, that was my talent portion.
So now that you've done 2 pageants, and you're now your first year at Berkeley, right?
Yes.
And you want to major in what?
I am going to be a pre-business major right now.
So what are you going to do with business, your dance background, and your pageant experience, and all of your community service?
Yeah, I think right now as a freshman, I really just want to stay open-minded and allow myself to explore different avenues, different passions, whether it's business, dance, fashion, entrepreneurship. There's so many things that I still want to look into, and I think as a freshman, I just really want to be able to have an open mind. But aside from that, I'm really glad for the Miss Asian Global platform, because it's allowed me to do a lot of community service. If you guys remember from the video earlier, I was talking about a nonprofit organization that I work with called Catwalk for Charitable Causes. And what we do is we produce charity fashion shows throughout the San Francisco Bay Area to support various charitable causes. And my contribution to that was to be able to dance, model, and also recently I started emceeing for these events. And so I just really love to have this platform to be able to combine my passions with community service as well.
So this whole segment here really is focused on trying to help you find yourself, your self-actualization, as we said the last two interviews. Where do you think you are in terms of that journey? It seems like you've had really, really great parental environment, but is that helping you zero in on what you want, or are you still pretty much very much on your own journey trying to really define what you actually want to do for yourself?
I think for me, one thing that's really important for me is really keeping an open mind. And yes, I do have very supportive parents who are actually here with me today. So I just really want to stay open-minded and allow myself to really explore different avenues of what I want to do. And I think sometimes there is definitely a pressure there's definitely pressure that I face, which is to have certain expectations. I feel like I have to meet certain expectations, but definitely I'm trying to let go of those pressures sometimes.
That's one thing I did when we were working with you on was that while I was coaching with you, you would a lot of times get so nervous, which I don't understand because you're on stage more than anyone else I know. And yet you would get so nervous and right up to the point that you're amazing. But where do you think that comes from? Where do you think that type of energy comes from where you're so nervous and not sure what you can do that it disappears once you hit stage?
I think it definitely comes from my dance experience. When I first started dancing and I did that solo in 7th grade, I was super nervous, but then when I was on stage, it actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was. So I tend to do that where it's like I'm very nervous beforehand, but then once I get on stage, I just really try to put aside all the pressures and to just be myself within that moment. I think sometimes when we give ourselves too many expectations where we, like whenever we make a mistake, let's say, we start dwelling on those mistakes. Or if we set too big of an expectation for ourselves, we lose the ability to just focus on the present moment. When we overthink the past and also the future, that takes away from our ability to just be in the present moment and to do our best in that moment.
Do you happen to go through any of that in the pageant?
Surprisingly, no. So like I said before, I was very nervous leading up to the pageant, but on the pageant day, I actually found myself very calm for some reason. I don't know why. And I think I knew that I was already as prepared as I could be in that moment, and I just really wanted to enjoy that moment, and that's what I did.
So would you say that one of the best ways to address that is prepare yourself as best you can and know that there's nothing else you can do, that you're as prepared as you possibly could be, and just let whatever happens, happens?
Yes, absolutely. I think when you let go of those pressures, you just allow yourself to just focus on that moment and just take it step by step and go slowly. Don't think about the past, don't think about the future, just think about that moment right there. And I think that's what really helped me during the pageant and just in life in general.
Does, going back to your family, because your family is very unique in the sense that they're super supportive. Do they have, I know your mom put you out there to really like learn and become graceful and also just establish and find yourself as a dancer, but where do you want to go and take this in terms of dancing? Is dancing going to be something that is part of your life professionally, or is it going to be something that you're just doing aside and you're focused strictly on business now?
I think dance is definitely not something that I want to do professionally. It's definitely one of my hobbies that I love to maintain. But yeah, I think right now I'm really just focusing on school and also just allowing myself to, explore any classes that there are. Recently, I actually enrolled in a public speaking course. So again, I'm just trying to push myself out of my comfort zone because, that's always been one of my biggest fears was public speaking. But I think because of Miss Asian Global, I realized, I did a lot of things on stage that I never thought I would have been able to do. So if I can do that, what can't I do? So that's why I did that, and I'm really just trying to push myself out of my comfort zone as much as possible to grow.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed about a lot of performers. As your musicians or singers and dancers, you guys can do amazing work on your dancing, your singing, but the minute I ask you to go out there and give a talk, you freeze. You just stop and you just look like, and it blows my mind because you guys are so used to being on stage, but the minute I actually do something as natural, what you do every day, it's like, right? So it's very impressive that you got so far as you did right now. What are any bits of advice you want to give to any young women, whether they're pageantry or if they're going through high school, but trying to give themselves that sense of confidence and direction, and maybe whatever they're it could be they're fighting against parental wishes or they're fighting against their own peer pressure. What advice would you give them?
I would say just don't be afraid of the pressure, and when you are able to learn to love it, that's when you are able to grow into your fullest potential. I think sometimes when we compare ourselves to others, we often feel inadequate, and doing that forces us to sort of dwell on our mistakes, and we set certain expectations that we sometimes can't meet. And when we don't meet those, we feel like a failure, and then we end up discouraging ourselves, and we're not able to move on past that. But I would say if you can just let go of that pressure and don't think about the past and don't think about the future, and just really focus on the present moment and what you can do in that moment, and just push yourself out there and get out of your comfort zone, that's where most of your growth comes from.
I do have a question then, because we do talk about planning your future and planning out where you want to go. How do you balance where you want to go, but also being in the moment?
I think when I say don't think about the future, of course, I don't mean don't have goals and don't be motivated, of course, but the message that I really want to get out there is just to not be so harsh on yourself. Don't be, don't talk down on yourself just because something didn't happen the way you wanted it to. There are lots of things that I wanted to pursue and didn't end up working out. For example, after I graduated from high school, I really wanted to join my collegiate dance team actually, but unfortunately the week before, someone rear-ended my car, and I was not really able to walk or dance anymore for a couple of months after that. And originally I was really upset about that, and I thought, like, why is this happening to me? But then I realized, I think everything happens for a reason, and even though that happened, that's what gave me the opportunity and the time to be able to pursue the Miss Asian Global pageant, and that's what brought me to where I am today. So I think everything definitely happens for a reason, and when you let go of certain expectations of what you want to happen in your life, it could take you in a completely new direction that you never thought would have happened before.
And what can we expect from you in the next 5 years after you finish Berkeley and going out into the workforce? What are your plans? Do you have a vision for what you want to be doing? Your own project, working for a company?
I think right now I really just want to again focus on exploring different avenues. There are things that I'm really interested in, such as business, fashion, dance, a lot of things, and something that I'm actually really interested in is entrepreneurship. So I don't know exactly what it's going to be just yet, but I know that if I ever come up with an idea, I definitely want to pursue entrepreneurship because I think that's something that's really interesting. And especially with the Miss Asian Global pageant, I've seen so many Asian American women entrepreneurs, and I think they are very inspiring, and I hope to be able to follow their path one day.
One cool thing to note is that our 2024 Miss Asian Global pageant, Kylie is going to be our dance captain for that. She's going to essentially choreograph all of the 2024 delegates' dance sequence on stage and also out in public. So I can't think of a better way for you to go from Miss Asian Global to our dance captain and crown the Queen successor. So thank you so much, Kylie.